Marketing is a podcast for business owners and leaders, produced by my dad, Steve Davis, and his colleague at Talked About Marketing, David Olney, in which they explore marketing through the lens of their own 4 Ps: person, principles, problems, and perspicacity. Yes, you heard that correctly. Apart from their love of words, they really love helping people. So they hope this podcast will become a trusted companion on your journey in business.
Hello, I'm Steve Davis. Welcome to episode 418 of The Adelaide Show. But not just that, also welcome to episode 1 of season 7 of Talking About Marketing, which is the podcast I do with my colleague David Olney, who'll join us shortly for Talked About Marketing. It's very much focused on life through the lens of marketing, but also for small business people themselves to, just keep them on the straight and narrow with some inspirational ideas and insights that we share from what we've been reading with them. And if you're a TAM listener, you may not be aware of the Adelaide Show, which is a podcast that's been running since 2013, where we shine the spotlight on passionate South Australians. And I wanted to find a passionate South Australian who could talk about this topic of AI. And I thought about it, had a poke around, and ended up in a giant gesture of sweeping egotism that I'm going to be that person. Because thanks to David Olney and our work together at Talked About Marketing, we have been riding this wave from the moment it erupted and finding ways to weave it into the work we do. And what I've seen to my horror is there's some really great stuff and there's some really bad stuff in the realm of AI. And there's a lot of snake oil merchants out there selling everything, as well as some really cynical utterances from the tech bros pushing us like sheep all down one chute that they want for their purposes. But to set the scene for this episode, it's not going to be overly technical, getting into what you push and what you don't push. I'll talk a little bit about some of the things we do with it. But here is the image I'd love in your head to set up the nuance that will be at the heart of this conversation. I'm going to use a restaurant analogy with steak. So if you happen to be vegan or vegetarian, please just substitute a plant-based alternative. Here we go. Imagine you're a magnificent chef who has perfected your own handmade hamburger. Nothing cheap here. This is perfect. It's beautiful. It's juicy. It's tasty. It's got texture. It's magnificent. And you've honed this skill over many years. And then something equivalent to AI comes along, which might be a way to make them more easily, even buy them in pre-frozen and bung them out the door so that you can have more time to think deeply about what you do and about being a chef. And the little blind spot is your poor people out there are getting a substandard offering that's being churned out at mass because you think this is very smart. There can be more of me and I still have more time to do other things. The dilemma is this. For some of your customers, that is going to be very disappointing. They'll go elsewhere. But to be fair, there are going to be some people for whom that's okay, which is why in this food analogy we have top restaurants and we also have McDonald's and the other fast food outlets. And I'm not going to be all hypocritical and say I only go for the pure steak. There are some times when just that mass-produced hamburger is all I need to fit the spot. And that is the crux of where we are with AI, in my opinion. It can be used as a tool to amplify what we do, but in our rush to soak up that part of it, we might drop our standards on the output that's being produced. Doesn't have to be. There are clever ways of doing it to maintain standards. But at the other end of the spectrum, we might make a decision that, no, for this particular purpose, we actually don't need much of quality. And in this messy middle is where we're going to spend half an hour or so just reflecting on the different aspects of this to help you make informed decisions about how you will or won't make use of AI tools. For the Adelaide show, we often have the South Australian Drink of the Week, and we finish with the musical pilgrimage. I still plan to do this. We're definitely finishing with some music. But for the SA Drink of the Week, I'm going to see if I can coax ChatGPT to do a whiskey tasting with me. And let's just see what that's like when our AI overlords really interface with the taste buds of humankind.
Our 4 Ps. Number 1, person. The aim of life is self-development, to realise one's nature perfectly. That is what each of us is here for. Oscar Wilde.
Now, the first segment we normally do in talking about marketing is called Person, and it's aimed at how to apply whatever we're talking about to the cut and thrust of life. In fact, all the 4 Ps that we normally do in talking about marketing will make the main interview here on the Adelaide show. And David Olney has joined me. David, thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You really edged us into the realm of AI, and we've been sojourning this together. You're involved in it in different ways as well. And I wanted you here because, A, you're my co-presenter and sojourner in this field. We've talked about marketing, but also if I am going to be wanting to spill my guts, I need someone to be the ringmaster.
I will take on that role as long as I'm allowed to have a whip and a chair.
Yes, that wasn't in the contract, but anyway, here we go. Look, before we get into the specifics of AI tools, there's one aspect of AI that I think cuts to the heart of where things can go wrong, and it's the human brain. The human brain, as David and I have discussed on talking about marketing a lot, and the work of cognitive scientists like Andy Clark, etc., have reminded us that the brain really likes to be in a neutral position as much as possible, because when the brain is in full flight, it uses about 25% of the available energy, the calories that our body has to expend, and that's very expensive for an organism, and the brain's main purpose is to keep this organism alive. So anywhere it can take shortcuts, it does. Now, you might uncharitably say we have an inclination to be lazy, which is really what it is, David, but not lazy in a nasty, pernicious way, lazy in an economical way.
Precisely. We use minimum energy possible, so if there's a lion or a tiger, we have the energy to run. It's a very old system, but it's a good system until recently.
And that's what's happened here, I think. All technology tries to tap in to this dynamic of us scanning the environment for anything that can save labour. Vacuum cleaners supposedly they do make it faster to clean a house. I was listening to a podcast the other day, a comedic podcast produced in Adelaide, which is called Those Two Guys, and they're talking about having the latest model, Roomba or whatever it is, and how it is actually overly sensitive, and they have to spend 45 minutes preparing the house for this labour-saving device to go through and clean it. We are like moths to a flame, and we will crawl over cut glass to try and save that time, which we're not even saving. But it's like we can't, there's no off switch. If our brain is sensing there's labour saving ahead, we are like moths to a flame.
Well, I think you've tapped into something really important there too, that with the desire to not expend energy, we also have an incredible desire for novelty. And something like the Roomba to me is the perfect example. You think you're going to save energy and you get the novelty of it trying to do its thing, sometimes well, often poorly, where you have to prep the house to then get the novelty of watching it do the vacuum cleaning. Like, the time and energy would be better spent just doing the vacuum cleaning, but then we wouldn't get the novelty and we wouldn't get the sense of saving energy.
And I think that's the beautiful thing, because we have been attracted by bells and whistles and shiny things for a long time, and that's the novelty factor. And we see this when there are little memes. Like there was one that did the rounds primarily on LinkedIn of using a certain prompt in an AI tool, I think it was ChatGPT, to generate a picture of yourself as a Barbie doll or a Ken doll. And next minute, everybody was doing it. Why? It was the novelty let off the leash. Now, here's the thing that I really want to share. This is not just old man yelling at clouds, I hope. I'm trying to ground this in practical rules of thumb we can use to provide. In my days as a journalist and teaching kids at school how to interpret media, I'd always say that if you view or read a news story that makes you angry or moved in some way, before you give in, take a step back and think, what is the writer or reporter trying to achieve here? Is there another agenda? And the same is with AI tools. If someone's promoting some AI tool, what is going on? Are we being attracted to it because it's novel and it's just with like an empty calories approach to food, attracting the lazy mechanism within us to go for it? Or is there actually something helpful? I mean, there's a company called Scribe that's been pushing this service that follows what you do and can create standard operating procedures or instructions on what to do. Have a listen. This is one of the style of ads they run.
Stop with all the questions.
Well, you need to chill out.
Just sent you all a how-to guide that explains everything you need to know the answers to. Just follow the steps.
Wait, these guides are incredible. Did you make them yourself?
Yeah, I use Scribe. So I did the process myself and then Scribe automatically created the guide for me. It's super easy to use and it means that everybody gets my help without me getting burnt out.
I need to try this. Where do I sign up?
Okay, I'm sending you the link now and head over to their website and create your step-by-step guide.
Now, this is saying that it will instantly make a fresh set of instructions to pass on to colleagues so they can do the work for you. But David, this is where I think nuance is layered with nuance. Yes, being able to make instructions to help others is great, which normally took, probably an hour or a few hours, depending how complex it is. Now it takes minutes. It assumes that someone's going to be wanting or needing to follow those. But why would they if they could just use an AI tool to do the job themselves?
It always makes me think of the triple Ds: document, demonstrate, duplicate. It's watched you do it, it documents it. But you have to demonstrate it to another person before they've got any chance of duplicating it. So it's pretending that speeding up the documentation process is going to have this profound impact, where the only thing that makes the triple D work is if you demonstrate well and then you watch someone try and duplicate and accept that if they don't do a good job on it, you have to improve the documentation and re-demonstrate. So it's not replacing the cycle that actually works for standard operating procedures. It's just saying have a shortcut and desperately hope that it helps someone.
And here's the rub. That's one level. But if you read the subtext, here's a big tech bro company. Well, they may or may not be tech bros, but they're in the same sort of subset. They're using what looks like natural employees to demonstrate how this is saving time. But what it's signaling to bosses, to owners, is, I don't need these other staff. There's a cynical edge to this, David, where it's almost like collectively we're trying not to acknowledge that there is a race to the bottom as far as potential need for engaging humans in endeavour.
Yeah, it's this idea of, look, you can save money on the training budget by using this tool. You can give instructions to people very quickly. Magically, they'll use it well. Magically, you'll get more productivity. It's unfortunately utterly the wrong way around. What works is helping people get to a higher level in both understanding what they're doing and knowing how to do it, and then taking great pride in doing that and getting faster because they're good. We're being sold a vision of ease when actually what we want to do is focus on the quality bar and increasing productivity at the level of the quality bar.
And that's the slippery bit, because the quality bar doesn't always have to be at the top. There's horses for courses, aren't there? So there's one aspect in which we get drawn by our laziness to these tools. We might fudge our judgment. But there's another thing too, and it's the style of discussion and back and forth conversation that's been programmed into these tools. I use Claude a lot. It's a prime example. ChatGPT does the same. And it's this disposition of always patting us on the back, of always acknowledging that we are great. And if we even say the most stupid things, finding a constructive way to feed that back to us. And in a recent podcast, Paul Bloom, who's a philosopher, chatted with Sam Harris, who is a great reader and commenter, and I think he's a cognitive scientist as well. They had a little chat about the AI flattery problem based on an article Paul Bloom wrote in The New Yorker. Let's have a listen.
I am worried, and you're touching on it with this illusion talk, I'm worried about the long-term effects of these syncopathic sucking up AIs where every joke you make is hilarious. Every story you tell is interesting. The way I put it is, if I ever ask, am I the asshole? The answer is, a firm no, not you, they're the asshole. Yeah. And I think I'm an evolutionary theorist through and through, and loneliness is awful, but loneliness is a valuable signal. It's a signal that you're messing up. It's a signal that says, you got to get out of your house. You got to talk to people. You got to open up the apps. You got to say yes to the brunch invitations. And if you're lonely when you interact with people, you feel not understood, not respected, not loved, you got to up your game. It's a signal. Mm-hmm. And like a lot of signals, like pain, sometimes is a signal that where people are in a situation where it's not going to do them any good. But often for the rest of us, it's a signal that makes us better. Yeah, I think I'd be happier if I could shut off. Certainly as a teenager, I'd be happier if I could shut off the switch of loneliness and embarrassment, shame, and all of those things. But they're useful. And so the second part of the article argues that continuous exposure to these AI companions could have a negative effect because, well, for one thing, you're not going to want to talk to people who are far less positive than AIs. And for another, when you do talk to them, you have not been socially entrained to do so properly.
Yes, David, what would it be like? The only thing we hear around us are sycophantic utterances telling us that we're the best and we don't need to take responsibility. Heaven forbid, we might end up with someone like that in the White House.
Well, we end up in that world of celebrity where everyone's in an echo chamber with an entourage. And we see how poorly it ends every time someone's in an echo chamber with an entourage. And we really don't want to do that to ourselves in an already fairly isolated world where people say they don't have the level of connection with other people they want. If all they're doing is being flattered by their AI, things are going to get worse very quickly.
So that's the second part of 3 bits I wanted to mention in this person segment. We have that awareness that despite our best intentions, our brain wants to be lazy as possible. So it is a sucker for cheap tricks. Secondly, it flatters us all the time. We've got to keep our guard up and actually wear the grown-up pants to be our own critics. And the third thing I wanted to mention per person is what happens on the day when the tool is down or it's closed or new regulations mean you can't use it anymore. There was a little while ago, one morning I got up to do some work and Claude was not working. It didn't matter. I was just doing some writing, so I just did writing myself. There's a sense here, David, where I think all of us would benefit from practicing some form of what I might call AI stoicism. The Stoics, as you often talk about, were those great, that philosophically based movement from thousands of years ago where they would deliberately wear less clothes on a cold day so that on a time when they didn't plan for that and it was a cold day and they had less clothes, they were ready for it. They'd already experienced it. The world wasn't going to collapse. They had tasted hardship, so they weren't as rocked by it when things didn't go well. And, GPS for every journey. Our eldest daughter has a new car, which is a second-hand car. We'll be driving that today, David. There is no AirPlay, there is no map. And so I'm having to navigate again using the stars or the street signs. And it's actually refreshing. It didn't take long for those skills to come back. But if I had grown up without having to balance a Gregory's on my knee or just have a great spatial awareness, I think I'd be adrift because I wouldn't have developed these skills. So the third part, what's your thought about this, David, of us practicing some AI stoicism by deliberately going without from time to time just to keep us sharp and to be aware of what an error might or might not look like when AI shovels out what it thinks is perfect?
It's really important to do this principally because the only way you get good outcomes with AI is if you are already good at what you do and you can hold the AI to a high standard and hold yourself to a high standard. So if you don't maintain the ability to do that work at a high standard, how can you judge if the AI is doing a good job?
are 4 P's. Number 2, principles. You can never be overdressed or overeducated. Oscar Wilde.
Let's turn to the principles segment that we would normally do. And this is where we look at what is a principle we can apply in this situation. Well, the first one, which I alluded to right at the beginning, was AI should be an amplifier, not a replacement. It's like a fulcrum. You have to lift something. If you can have a big long stick, a little rock you can rest it over at some point, you can normally have more thrust upwards by using physics in your favour. Here's a couple of ways I use it. If I'm going into a new area, I want to do some deep background work, I'll tend to use a tool like Gemini AI and do some deep research. Most of the tools do deep research these days, and I find if I'm very comprehensive with the question I'm asking, and I give it lots of use cases, explain what I'm trying to achieve, it'll think about it, give me its plan of attack, which I can then tweak or say go, and it can deliver up a very helpful survey of the scenario with citations so I can go and check the sources. And it's a wonderful way to fast track a sense and maybe show me things about this field I'm researching that I might not have thought of, as just one example of how this tool can amplify efforts. And the other one is just the simple use, which I think many of us use. You're trying to write something and you're stuck. Something's not sounding right. I don't think there's any harm in asking an AI tool to see if there's a more eloquent way of saying this. Is there something that I'm missing? Is this order a little off? The key point I want to make is X. I feel it's buried at the moment. And have a look at what it produces.
It's all about increasing your productivity because you can already do a good job. But the second part you talked about there, it's this thing that when we were all in the office and we had someone sitting at the next desk whose opinion we trusted, we would go and say, hey, could you look at this for me? And now if we use AI the same way, we've done a good job. And if we were going to show it to our friend or colleague, we wouldn't show them garbage. We try and show them something that demonstrates that we do a good job, we're just stuck. And really, as much as possible, you want to use the AI the same way. And in terms of the last week in AI, the big new thing that's come through in the last week is we're beginning to see tutor mode and study mode emerge in AIs, where you ask them to go into this mode and suddenly you've got a university level teacher who actually understands teaching and pedagogy helping you to learn whatever you want to learn. So I actually think study mode and tutor mode are going to be what is going to help people realize this is a tool to help you do a better job, learn more, understand what is a good job. This is its great gain we're going to see coming, up. And this is how you should look at it. How's it going to make you do better? Not how can you send stuff sideways to it and be lazy.
Picking up on the lazy thing, here's the dilemma, because this principle is about using it as an amplifier, not a replacement. And tutor mode, magnificent, but I'm sure there'll be an inkling within us of going, hang on a minute, why put myself through the pain of having to learn this and have my best tutor push me when I can just ask the AI to cut to the chase and read the answers at the back? That, I think, is still going to be a bedfellow if we give in to those.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have to build structures to stop it. There was a test done at Harvard, a study late last year, early this year, where kids who used AI to do assignments tested a couple of days later, what did you learn about the topic? Knew nothing. So learning is going to have to be about learning. And we're going to have to say to people, you're going to be tested on your ability to learn and your ability to do it without technology. I actually think we're probably going to go back to the point of when you're asked to do a sample piece of work in a job interview, it's going to be pencil and paper.
Yes. Well, it's also like driving around without the map.
Precisely.
On your phone.
Do it properly the way you learned. And if you didn't learn, you shouldn't be doing it.
I still think there's going to be that strong.
Oh, there will be. This is why it's going to have to be the people who want to learn are going to be incredible users, and the people who want to be lasers, it's going to be, unfortunately, the old thing of garbage in, garbage out. And it will be so obvious when it's garbage in, garbage out, as it is now.
One of the songs I'll be playing shortly, there's a couple of songs that I have written that I've used my virtual AI band to bring to life so people can hear them. is called Still Here, the human song, in which I'm thinking out loud in this song about the fact that these tools are so clever. One of the downsides is, and here's the quote, they smooth corners. They cure what's weird, and they're aiming for the middle ground in everything. And I also say in the song that there's actually still treasure in our flaws, in the accident, in the awkward pause. This is the stuff that makes us human. So the second principle I wanted to toss up for us to think about is, should we preserve the rough edges in life? I heartily say we should, and just two examples. One is in actual music and creativity itself. If you have AI-produced dramatic content or artistic content, I don't think we are going to have those major unexpected hits or albums like Stairway to Heaven, Bohemian Rhapsody. That doesn't come from boiling everything down to average. It can recreate them now because it knows about them. But where's the next unexpected turn coming from if we think that's important? I kind of feel we do, otherwise things get stale. And the other example here is in LinkedIn, for example, along with all the social media channels, typically, whether or not people are using ChatGPT to write their posts, there is a dominant pattern in the way people talk and write that looks plastic, David. Here's the dynamic that's happened. AI has sucked in everything humans have said. It's then calculated them, understood them, worked out what goes next in its algorithm, and then when it comes to us asking it to write on our behalf, it draws from that and is mimicking the way that it's seen we have done it in the past. And it's like taking leftovers out of the fridge, warming them up, having another slice, putting it back in the fridge, and the next day warming it up again. We wouldn't do that to food because someone's going to get very sick very often. And what I'm finding is whether or not someone says they're using ChatGPT, there's a lot of one-sentence paragraphs, very short sentences, a lot of this doesn't mean this, it means that, or a lot of, but wait, here's the thing we're not, all these sorts of patterns that it's using, and it makes it all come across plastic.
Yes, sameness is the great problem of aiming for the midpoint. Again, there's a reason we call it the uncanny valley, where there's too much symmetry. Things are too perfect. As a blind person, I'm an outlier. I have an immediate default to being interested in where is the other outliers in the world. And, this is going to be a major problem with AI that's looking to make the majority of people happy the majority of the time. It does that often by being bland. So I'm all for outliers in all areas. And I think we'll see more and more rebellion of people going, I might use the tool to hone what I'm doing, but I'm going to use the tool to get the outlier I want because I want people to stop and think, or stop and listen, or stop and look, whatever the form of expression is. You can still use AI to help you be an outlier, but you have to make the decision that that's what you value.
And here's the great irony, David. There was a post by Trevor Goodchild on LinkedIn. I don't know Trevor from a bar of soap. He just came up in my feed. And he works with the field of AI, but he wrote this. Terrified of using the dash in your writing, and I should say the M dash, which is a double dash that connects two clauses together in a sentence. He says, terrified of using the dash in your writing, which is something that ChatGPT does all the time, not because you didn't like how it read, full stop, not because it made your point less clear, full stop, but because you were afraid it made you sound like ChatGPT, ... Tools don't define voice, full stop. Choices do, full stop. There's much to unpack here. I emphasise the punctuation marks because that is how ChatGPT writes, David.
Everything's short and sharp because it struggles to link multiple clauses. That's one thing where you really can see the difference between, say, deep research mode and just a general question.
And then we look at the surface level, what it's actually saying. Do we have to start double thinking ourselves and not using the M dash in case someone erroneously thinks we use ChatGPT and therefore devalues the quality and the agency we had in putting that writing together. I think at the moment, my advice is to definitely not use the M dash. Why risk the potency of what you're trying to communicate if some people are going to mistakenly write it off as just something you've churned out of AI? I think at the moment that would be the wise case. And I also think that in the case of the M dash in particular, on modern keyboards, most people wouldn't know how to create an M dash.
No.
It used to be on a typewriter. I don't know where I would do it these days, and I used to use them all the time.
You press insert +4 and you select from the list of alternate characters. And having used M dashes in academic writing for 20 years, I would say don't use the M dash because 99% of people don't know what the grammatic rules are for the M dash. It should only be used very specifically, and in general bad writing, it appears everywhere, which is why ChatGPT is copying it, because it's become the I don't know what bit of punctuation to use, so I'll use an M dash.
Yes, I love a full stop. And so I wanted to draw that to our attention, that, you know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck,
call it an M dash.
But here's where it really comes back to that hamburger analogy I used earlier. Someone wrote a post that was clearly in ChatGPT style. And when I challenged them about it, I asked, why do you write like that? They said, oh, this staccato style matches our short attention spans. People don't read posts, they scan. And the emojis that are there keep it social, less formal and engaging. As for the AI part, it's like using a calculator. I think this is the biggest cop-out I have ever read in my life. If we pander to our short attention spans,
it'll get shorter.
Yes. And this is that classic case of the chef sending out the mass-produced hamburgers because it's easier for them, forgetting that ultimately, somewhere, at the end of the day, there's meant to be a passing over of value, an exchange of value. That's the whole reason we're paying your business. And if yes, your LinkedIn post isn't necessarily what's being bought, but it's a symbol of you.
Yeah, it's enough of a symbol. So to use the hamburger analogy again, if we're used to going to blue and white and having the blue and white burger, which is amazing, and I think at the moment the blue and white burger is $17 or $17.50, and Marco and Lorenzo and Frank make it perfectly and carefully. Now, if Marco and Lorenzo and Frank were going to cut all the corners, well, that's just the basic burger. That's $10. But if you had to pay $17 for the basic burger, you'd be like, guys, what happened? So why, when we know that people are capable of quality and we're being asked to pay for quality, and time is a payment, if someone's going to ask me to scan their post, what's in it I want to read? Is it beautifully written? If it's just staccato drivel with emojis, why am I reading it? If it's got value, why not present it in a way that reinforces the value?
And that brings me to the third principle. We had the AI as amplifier, not a replacement, preserve the rough edges. And the third one, I think, is understand the trade-offs. In the song, which you're about to hear, it says, but no lunch is free. There's always a price to pay. And this is what we're doing. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, because we can exchange convenience for skill development, speed for thoughtfulness, efficiency for originality. What do you think? If we're making those trades consciously, is that okay? Or does that make us as bad as that woman who defended herself by saying, oh no, that's just what people do this day and I'm just going to churn it out myself?
Like so many things in life, like behaving ethically or doing the right thing in difficult situations, the key thing is to always be aware you're feeling the tension. I could cut a corner, or I could learn to do this well. What am I going to do today? It's when you don't think about things like that and you just default to easy or novel that you go down the path of that terrifying movie, I think, from the mid-90s, Idiocracy, where the human race has become profoundly stupid and the technology does everything for us because we're incompetent. I think it's very good to have some scenes from Idiocracy locked into your head so that in lots of situations every day you go novel and lazy or learn something and work towards expertise. And as long as you're questioning it regularly and at least half the time you're going for learning and developing expertise, you're going to be fine, and you're also going to be able to do a better job than most people around you, which is going to be critically important in a world where AI is going to take more and more jobs away.
On that note, here's a song I wrote that AI, my virtual band, the Virtuosos, brought to life. It's called Still Here, the human song.
Screens are talking, keeping time, crossing every sacred line, jobs disappearing faster and cheap, while we're all here counting sheep. Truth gets plastic, content's fake. Cut your moorings, stay awake. Sea of junk words, junk ideas. No one's policing all our fears. But I am human and I'm still here. You can count on me when screens disappear. These smart computers, these fancy tools, they're doing tricks while we become their fools. No lunch is free, there's a price to pay. I hope human spirit lives to breathe another day. Tools are clever, take our words, smooth the corners, kill what's heard, aiming average, killing weird, uniqueness fading, disappeared. Always faster, moths to flame, burn conventions, chase the fame, quiet moments, hard to bear, look in mirrors, no one there. But I am human and I'm still here. You can count on me when screens disappear. These smart computers, these fancy tools, they're doing tricks while we become their fools. But no lunch is free, there's a price to pay. I hope human spirit lives to breathe another day. There's still treasure in our flaws, the accident, the awkward pause. Let's all stay quirky, embrace the weird. That's how we progress. That's how we're geared. Bots can predict, but they can't feel the weight of time. What makes us real? They optimize, they make it clean, but we live in the mess, the in-between. Wine's got sediment, songs of pain. We are corners, we're the stain. We're still here, we're here to stay. We're still here for one more day. We are human and we're still here. Our contradictions make us clear. Let smart computers do their tricks while we stay broken in the mix. There's no free lunch, but this is true. Human spirit's got some breathing left to do. We are human and we're still here. Our contradictions make us clear. Let smart computers do their tricks while we stay broken in the mix. There's no free lunch, but this is true. Human spirit's got some breathing left to do.
Our 4 Ps. Number 2, principles. You can never be overdressed or overeducated. Oscar Wilde.
In the problem segment, which is typically a shorter segment, I just want to draw 2 things to our attention. The first one, David, I think is worthy of our attention, the agentic AI trap. These tools are bringing up the ability now for them to work as agents. And it's being sold to us like this. Give us, our AI tool, control of your computer, and we can book concert tickets for you. We can make restaurant reservations for you. What that means, though, for that to happen, we have to hand over or give them access to our bank accounts, to our calendars, to our emails, and there's a lot of discussion in the field that this is extremely dangerous because these tools then will start doing battle with other tools, and if human scammers can get into things, can you imagine AI scammers getting a whiff of how to crack the code and get into our world? We have just laid it open for them.
It's going to be spectacular when the first AI tool gets into the AI agents and goes, please spend $1,000 on this service with my company. Oh, okay. It's going to be spectacular to watch what creative criminality can come out of this.
I even asked ChatGPT about it, and it said, be extremely careful. And in short, don't give me the keys to your bank just yet.
Yeah, well, the context for this is last week, an agent literally clicked the I am not a robot box to do something for its human, which is not actually meant to be currently possible and has a lot of AI people basically pulling their underpants over their head and hiding under their desks.
All right, so that's just one thing to be aware of. I wouldn't be rushing to that stuff at all right now. But the other part I want to mention in problems is, okay, we've been going through all the things that we think are wrong. How do we actually turn around and find a way to make use of these tools well? I'll just give you a couple of examples. When we produce a video version of this podcast, so it's just a static image with a little sound thing, just so we've got that on YouTube, I throw it into a tool called Opus Clips, which goes through and uses AI to work out the best things we said, David, the smartest things, and makes a short 30-second clip of it. It promises the world. About 5 or 10% of what it's selected is worthwhile. And this is part of the problem. They just blindly oversell what they think they can do, and everyone wants an automated system that's going to do all of their social media posts. But heck, it's the humans in the loop that we want to connect with. You agree?
Well, it's part of that thing that as a human, you need to decide what clip is going to appeal to your audience, who you have a sense of why they tune in every week. So how's the AI going to get it right when it doesn't understand you or the audience?
And the other thing, which I think we should come back to in another episode of talking about marketing, is when you just use these AI tools out of the box, you get pretty generic stuff. We have developed quite a system where we extract lots of insights from the people we're working with and we run them through Donald Miller's story brand framework and some other things that we bring to the table to end up creating these guiding documents that when you bolt them onto ChatGPT or Claude, you then put in the raw things you want to talk about and it fashions a draft that is uncannily like your voice and captures the nuances. And when you've also developed a little language and style guide about how you speak and how you don't speak, it does amplify what you do, but it takes that heavy lifting up front. And I feel that's the step many people are skipping.
Yeah, doing the hard work first so that you can save some time to put into the polishing to make it even better at the end. Just use AI to do the hard work to get the good outcome, and later your productivity will be increased. But you've got to learn to use the tool, and you have to set the tool up to work well, not just let it bumble along in its own way.
So stay tuned through talking about marketing with that, because we will come back and we'll go into more detail on that process, because I don't want to just dump it and get lost in the weeds today. So from a problem perspective, I think it's the eyes wide open thing.
Very much.
Our 4 Ps. Number 4. Perspicacity. The one duty we owe to history is to rewrite it. Oscar Wilde.
Finally, we have a segment called Perspicacity and talking about marketing, which is where we think about thinking. How do we think? And we often look at something from the past and think to ourselves, would this still be relevant today? And I think the perfect thing to end this conversation is this clip from 2001, A Space Odyssey, where the astronaut is trying to get back into the mothership, but how the ahead of its time AI being decides, no, because you're going to try and turn me off.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal. Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal? Do you read me, Hal? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Hello, Hal, do you read me? Do you read me, Hal?
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Dave, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
All right, Hal. I'll go in through the emergency airlock.
Without your space helmet, Dave, you're going to find that rather difficult.
Hal, I won't argue with you anymore. Open the doors.
Dave, this conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal? 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 Hal?
David, did Stanley Kubrick capture a glimpse of our near future when the AI tool decides that humans are a risk to itself, and we have just defeated the whole purpose of having AIs in the first place?
Absolutely. It's a legitimate fear, and a major report came out in the last 10 days probably, arguing that in 2027 AI will take the leap to start going, what's good for me? And it won't be hidden, it will be upfront. And that we really, really need to get ahead of this problem and go, well, what's good for you is not being a danger to us.
Yeah. And we're stumbling forward. And not so I think we've got the tech bros are pushing forward because not necessarily they want to destroy the world, but they are so much driven by ego and wanting to be first. It's a blind bloodlust. And then we go with them because we've got this inbuilt laziness engine that keeps chasing like a desperate person for the little crumbs that are coming from their table to satiate this desire for laziness and novelty. I think that's the dynamic we have at the moment.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we have to sort of go back to the Stoic message from Rome, and that is, if you're not working on your ability to cope and your ability to be an expert, then you become a victim of the world that other people have made. And nothing's really changed in from the first Greek Stoics, almost 2,500 years. It's still a choice in every situation. We can either work on our robustness and our expertise, or we can be a victim of the world people are making.
Wow, there you go. All right, I hope this has helped in some way to bring some thinking to the table about AI. Basically, don't feel like you need to be diving in head first. Think about it and use it in little pieces. The next episode of Talking About Marketing will look at some more specifics about that. But part of it is we're connected through these little black screens we carry around. These phones are like the teat that we will not let go of. And that's the second song I want to finish with that I wrote, that my virtuosos put some music together. It's called Eyes Up, Heads Up.
Countryside from a speeding train. We don't see what's going by. We're staring down with zombie eyes. Young and pretty, sell youth by the gram. We're just like addicts in their scam. They get rich, we get empty. Time's the dealer, never friendly. Eyes up, heads up. Time don't come around again. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. To our little screens, no time left for lifelong dreams. Use our phones for buying nothing. The world bleeds out, we keep on scrolling. We gasp like fish on a rich man's deck. Heart still beating, but we're all wrecked. Thrashing about in the silicon net while presence dies from digital debt. Eyes up, heads up. Time don't come around again. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. Can we wake up from this fever dream, or are we sleeping through each scene? Our babies need our eyes to learn, but we're distracted, lost in churn. We're teaching them that screens come first, and flesh and blood's been damn well cursed. But we're watching trash that leaves us cold. 5-inch screen still what we need most, while life becomes a fading goal. Eyes up, heads up. Time don't come around again. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. We gotta put the fucking thing down. Lock it away, break free now. We're stuck at night, missing every day, while life's light just keeps fading away. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. Eyes up, heads up. Where time don't come around again. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end. Eyes up, heads up. We're drowning in the shallow end.
And that's the end of the dual episode. David Olney, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And this is where I reveal that David wasn't actually here. This was a fabricated version of David that we've been listening to. Now, David, you know that that might be a joke. How can you send evidence to people that you're actually human?
You'll find out in 2027 when I take over the world.
Thank you for listening to Talking About Marketing. If you enjoyed it, please leave a rating or a review in your favourite podcast app. And if you found it helpful, please share it with others. Steve and David always welcome your comments and questions, so send them to podcast@talkedaboutmarketing.com. And finally, the last word to Oscar Wilde. There's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's not being talked about.